The question I asked was, why do we not read Bereishit, the story of creation, on Rosh Hashanah? Okay? And why is that so? Now, the fact is that I'm not dealing with, the date of the first of Tishrei is actually the date of creation of Adam and Chava. It's not the first day of creation. It's actually was the sixth day of creation in terms of when Adam and Eve were created. The point is that throughout the Rosh Hashanah liturgy, that's what said. Hayom Harat Olam, today the world was created. Okay, and so forth. So the point is that usually when you read something, when you have a reading for a day, it usually reflects the major event of the day. Okay, and it would seem that Rosh Hashanah does not talk about creation, and creation is part of a text in the Chumash. So why don't we read?
In the davening it says today the world was created.
Yes.
And yet it's really the day that Adam and Chava were created.
Yes, what's meant is the world was created when human beings created. But
so
the point
world only really had value when humans were.
Okay, it's the end of the creation, and so it's okay. Let's not get focused on what represents creation, because you get into issues of 6 days. So I'm saying that the holiday marks creation, and the specific event that is tied to this day is the creation of Adam and Chava. Now that leads to a whole different issue, okay, which is itself is worthwhile investigation. Why we consider creation to be marked by Adam and Chava. But the point is, why is that? But that really is what creation is for us in terms of where human beings began. But the point is that I can talk about it's the beginning of creation, it's the end of creation, whatever. But the point is that creation is the major theme of Rosh Hashanah. So it seems.
But even in Hayom Harat Olam, which is the principal exponent of that thought, it goes on, and the whole rest of the prayer Piyut goes Hayom Yamid B'Mishpat Kol Yitzurim Olamim Im Kuvonim Im Kuvodim. It's the all mankind is judged today,
so
whether it's children or as servants.
So what you're now bringing up is the fact that this was the creative day, raised it the day of judgment. Okay, once a year, God reviews his work.
His flock.
Okay, his work. Okay, so the point is the argument seems to be from creation. Okay, since this was the great day of creation, it's the day that marks your evaluation, that God will evaluate what He created, which is still tied to creation. It's the same way. It's interesting just to look at how people celebrate New Year's. What is the celebration of New Year's? So, in the Western tradition, New Year's is a day of celebration. Like I made it through another year, but at the same point in time, people talk about New Year resolutions. So the point is, from our perspective, it's like at the beginning of the year. That's when you set your goals for the year. That's when you try to make your plans for the year. So the point is that God judges at this time. Why? Because it's the anniversary of creation, specifically the anniversary of creation of the first human beings, right? Okay, so that seems to be it. But at the same point in time, that should be the Torah reading. Okay, and if there's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, you can have 2 readings. One reading being the first day of creation, one reading being the creation of Adam and Chava. Or you can have the 2 creations of Adam and Chava. There's one in the first chapter of Bereishit, and one that's in the second chapter of Bereishit.
It's bring a very interesting question, because Rosh Hashanah, not only Jews being judged, but all the people being judged. So how come all the other nations don't celebrate it?
Okay, so now you're raising another question. The fact is that raises another question in terms of, should all people are aware of this? So the truth is is that interesting in terms of the Noahide code. This gets into a whole big distinction between the Noahide code and the Torah code. Most people think of it as a distinction in the number of commandments. Jews have 613 commandments, Noahides have 7 commandments. The fact is, it is a completely different qualitative system. They're completely different systems. Okay? There are no holidays in the Noahide system. Right? They're not even allowed, according to the Rambam, to make a holiday. Okay? A Noahide who keeps Shabbos is considered to be deserving of the death penalty. A distinction between Jews and non-Jews. But an example of the significant distinction is that the numbering system of the commandments is very different. If you apply the way the commandments are figured out for Jews of 613 commandments, okay, if you applied the same system of defining commandments to the Noahide commandments, it actually comes to about 60, 70, maybe even 100 commandments. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the fact is, for example, we talked about it today in terms of the arayas. So we said there's one commandment for Noahides of the arayas, the prohibition. What are those prohibitions? Adultery and incest. Right? The fact is, if you actually look at what Noahides are prohibited from, they would make up about not necessarily all the ancestral rules of the Jewish community, but they would have a bunch of section of a whole variety of rules, which we count as a separate commandment in itself. They're grouped together. That's an indication of the qualitative distinction between the two. So the truth is, can a Noahide, if a Noahide or a non-Jew knows that Rosh Hashanah is coming, would it be a good thing for him to say, hey, God's going to be evaluating me, I better think what I can do and so forth. So I'm sure that a Noahide who knows this may sit there and say, this is a time for me to start thinking about these things.
Is Tshuva a non-Jew, a Noahide? Does he have a?
This is why I get into trouble, because people then ask, which actually are major questions. Is tshuva possible for a Noahide? It's not so simple. Okay. The fact is the most famous.
How can you stop someone from doing tshuva?
It's not a question of whether you can stop someone from doing tshuva. The question is, does it help? Okay, can a Noachide do tshuva? So the truth is that on the surface, it would seem to be the answer is yes, because what's the most famous biblical example, or I should say, what is the big biblical statement about tshuva that we read on Yom Kippur and Mincha? Yonah, who went to Nineveh and got Nineveh to do tshuva. Right? So all these Noachites did tshuva, and that seemed to say yes, a Noachite can do tshuva. Okay, it's a pretty good argument. There are commentators who do argue that it's not so simple that a Noachite can do tshuva because there's no commandment of tshuva within the Noachide laws, because tshuva is within the Torah system. It's a law within Torah. It's not that. So the point is, maybe there's no law, but the fact is that
Can they be punished? Not fair.
no, you get punished. You made a mistake. You're punished. Tshuva is a way of trying to get out of the punishment. So you can't get out of the punishment.
Fair.
Okay.
But how do we know? How do we know that
So
Hashem doesn't accept tshuva from?
So that's what I'm saying. Yonah is a pretty good example. He does it, and some people says they accept tshuva over here in this world, but that Yonah was involved in this world, but not for the next one. It's okay. The truth is I would sit there. I'm not making it. I for sure would not contend that a person can't do tshuva. Okay, it's too basic a value within Judaism, and basically a reflection of the rachamim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, and there was tshuva that existed for Noachides before Har Sinai. Okay, one of the classic examples of tshuva of a person before Har Sinai was Yishmael. Yishmael was deemed to have done tshuva, and therefore he was totally. That's why he was treated as an equal to Yitzhak. So the point is that I find it. There are a lot of reasons. In fact, then the argument would be, well, if a Noahide really wants to do tshuva, he has to convert. because that way you can convert. But the truth is, it's not so simple. It leads into a whole variety of issues and so forth. I do know that there's an issue about this. I personally like the commentators that say an Ochai can do tshuva, okay, but the point being is they were not designated to have to do tshuva on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. If they know it's a day of judgment, maybe it's a good idea for them to think about that. Yeah.
It depends how you look on tshuva. If tshuva is the way you are connected to God, like basically if you do avera, you disconnect from God. If you don't tshuva, you get reconnect to God.
Yeah.
Question is what's the difference between Gentile and Jews? What type of connection they have to God?
Yeah, that gets into the whole issue of what is the difference between a Jew and a Gentile, all different arguments about that and so forth. There are people who basically maintain, this is such a vast topic. There are people who maintain that a Gentile can't really connect with God, and there's other people who maintain that a Gentile can connect with God as equal as a Jew. Okay, there's all different opinions within the sources. It also ties to the concept if there really is something called the Jewish soul or not. Everyone thinks about the fact that Jews are distinguished by the soul. It's not so simple. It's for sure not everyone within Jewish thought. I'm talking major figures who accepted the idea of a Jewish soul. The argument of most people about the Rambam, for example, is he only understood the human soul. There was no inherent distinction between a Jew and a non-Jew in their souls. Okay, so that means that you can relate to God. A non-Jew can also relate to God. Okay, and therefore you see this from there. Okay, that's a further topic. You're raising intense topics. The point is, see, this is what happens when you raise these issues. It's like it opens up a whole array of questions, because a lot of times within Jewish education, the questions are sidestepped, or you don't take it to its full depth because you don't want to present the entire opinions, all the opinions. Okay. Anyways, okay. What I'm getting at, though, is that it seems to be pretty clear that one of the major events that ties in terms of Rosh Hashanah is the creation of the world. So why don't we read the story of the creation of the world on Rosh Hashanah? That's my question.
Because what we do read is more appropriate?
Okay, that's going to be the basic answer, but why? Yeah, right. The fact is what do we read, and what exactly? Yeah, but what do we read? What specifically do we read? One is the Akedah. On the second day, we read the story of the Akedah, and the fact that Sarah gave birth, and some extension of that in terms of also the idea that Hagar is Hagar and Yishmael are expelled from the camp, which is a powerful story.
Yours more tied to monotheism than creation.
What?
The new year renewal is more tied to monotheism than to creation.
And creation has nothing to do with monotheism?
No, it doesn't. We have all kinds of creation. Part of creation is comes out of it is monotheism. But there's a polytheism, there's agnostics, atheists, but the basis of civilization is
wait a sec. You're now saying something different.
Is belief in one God.
Okay, and where does that start? I'm trying to be careful about your words here, because you said creation is not about monotheism. Okay,
it
the
starts
fact
in
is,
the human endeavor at the time of not in God. When it started, when He created.
So there is a great fallacy that most people have. Okay, that Abraham was the first monotheist, right? Okay, it's not only not true, it's foolish. Jewish, okay, is one of the great misunderstandings of Judaism. Why is it a misunderstanding of Judaism? Because what it does is misunderstands why Abraham was selected. People think that Abraham was the first monotheist, and that's why God chose him. The truth is that's not what he did. What really stood out about Abraham?
He was a tzaddik. All his
Right.
connections
So
was only
there
for
was
God.
no other tzaddik around. Okay, so Avram was the biggest tzaddik, but otherwise there was nothing special about him.
No, there
Wasn't-
isn't.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is that what is unique about Abraham? Not just the fact he was the biggest tzaddik. What does that mean qualitatively? How is he different than any other person? Yeah. What? Wait a sec. One sec. He spoke to Hashem? No one else spoke to Hashem.
No?
Yeah, there's other people that spoke to Hashem.
Weren't some of the, if I remember correctly, weren't some of the people who lived extremely long periods of time around still at the time of Abraham's birth?
Yes.
Methuselah, for example.
Yeah.
Yes. The fact of the matter is that
And then
is
people were allowed
that
to
where
live
did
that long.
Yaakov go to study? He went to the yeshiva Shema Aver,
Yeah.
right? There was a yeshiva existent. Now the people who ran that yeshiva, okay, who was Shem? Well, there's a story that Abraham talking about who was around at the time of Abraham. Shach was already passed away in the flood, so it was not. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't pass away in the flood. He passed away before the flood. But there was also an individual by the name of Shem. Shem was the son of Noah. Shem was a pretty religious guy. He was a tzaddik. Okay. And he's actually mentioned by another sort of allusion in the Chumash. Who's Shem in the Chumash? And beside the fact that he's mentioned in Bereishit Noah, he actually had a little bit of a interaction with Abraham.
One of the three visitors.
So you're right. What's that? You're right. But anyway, so we get to this. Okay.
Were they angels?
Okay.
I don't know.
Let me just read it here. Because I have a chumash right in front of me. So
I think you're
let
right.
me just get this chumash here. Okay. It's actually in Parshas Lech Lecha. Okay. Avram went and fought some people, and then he came back. And what did he do when he came back? When he fought all those people, and okay, and he came back. And what did he do when he came back? He set the people free, and the spoils. And who did he give the spoils to?
The what? Spoiled.
The spoils from his war. Who did he give them to?
Back to Sdom. To the king of
Yeah,
Sdom.
King Sdom. But he took something. What did he take?
He only take for his people who.
And what else did he take?
Lot was.
Yeah, I know.
Cattle?
Let me find it here.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, I want to find it from
You want to
here.
read it to us?
Because I want to read it because it's actually. Okay, so it says, Malki Tzedek, Melech Shalem, okay, brought out wine to them, and Vivarcheu, and blessed them. And it says, blessed be Avram, the Kel Elyon, to God, okay, and so forth, and he says, Baruch Kel Elyon, and then Avram gave Malki Tzedek, because he was the priest of God, gave him a little bit of truma. Okay, Malki Tzedek is Melech Shalem, the king of Shalem. What's Shalem? This means complete, but it's also another city. It's actually Shalem was Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
Was Yerushalayim. And who's Malchi Tzedek Melech Shalem? Okay, so Malchi Tzedek Melech Shalem, who is he? So Rashi says, who's Shem ben Noach. He's Shem. So the fact is there was another pretty prominent monotheist around. Okay, so what was distinguished about Avraham Avinu?
Come to it themselves?
So there's two distinguishing marks about Avraham Avinu. One is that he was the first Baal Tshuva. That's one argument. But everyone else learned about God through the lessons and so forth, through being taught that way. Avraham Avinu's what? Okay, so
He was
the
told
second,
to go
no,
on.
wait a second. That's the second thing. The first thing he did is he came to it on his own, and until God actually appeared and said, "You've been working real hard. Okay, now I'll give you the answer." But Avram, his father was Terach. He did not have a Masorah. So one argument is that he was the first Baal Tshuva. That's one thing. The second thing is that his uniqueness is that he preached. Noah, people don't understand by Noah. Noah, didn't go out and tell people, big service here. There's a flood coming. Noah, and the argument is because Noah felt he wasn't up to the task. He didn't want to get messed up with this because he couldn't feel he could be successful. Avram was noted as being basically a preacher. When Jews talk about how Jews don't preach, right? It's one of the great jokes, okay? Because the very essence of Avram Avinu was he went out there and spread the knowledge of God, right? Okay?
Okay.
What's going on here? I don't know, but okay. But the fact is that he preached. Okay. Now that's Avram Avinu. Okay, now we got sidetracked here a little bit. So the truth is,
there is it's one way to look at it, but I think he was already born in this gift because he born with a special soul that let him do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay,
like how would he go without conviction to the oven and survived without burning out?
So what you're dealing with is basically presenting the attitude of the Kuzari and the concept of the Jewish soul. The fact is the concept of the Jewish soul implies that Jews already have a knowledge of God within. Okay, that we already know about God and so forth. The problem with the argument of the Jewish soul is it takes away from human bechira. It takes away from free will. It's the same argument as you have in arguments like the Calvinists, that God already knows who's going to be righteous and who's not going to be righteous. This is actually a very, very challenging discussion with the Jewish thought. And this is an example of things that usually, because they're so difficult to understand, are not presented in their full, from what I understand, to be the full breadth of their issue. The point is for example, by Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, although everyone knows the medrash that Moshe, he was Moshe. Okay. His mother took care of him, and so forth. But the point of the matter is, Moshe Rabbeinu was brought up in the house of Pharaoh. Right. Now the point is, what does that say about Moshe Rabbeinu? So
He
it's a
was
big.
exposed to all kinds of negative influence.
Okay, so the big issue about Moshe Rabbeinu, was he born perfect? That's a medrash that says when he was born there was a big light when he was born, and so forth and so forth. And the fact of the matter is, Miriam had to get his mother to nurse him because Moshe wouldn't take someone else, milk from another woman, only from a kosher woman, a Jewish woman, and so forth. And there's all arguments that Moshe, as he was brought up in the house of Pharaoh, still acted like a Jew. That's one viewpoint. Okay, he was a tzaddik from birth. There's another viewpoint. The other viewpoint was he was brought up as an Egyptian and acted like an Egyptian, which means Moshe Rabbeinu was also a Baal Tshuva. And that's a tremendous issue. It's a tremendous issue when we talk about the tzaddik ben tzaddik and the tzaddik ben Rasha. Okay? Who's greater, the tzaddik ben tzaddik or the tzaddik ben Rasha? The righteous son of an evil person or the righteous son of a righteous person? The point is that you see these arguments existing in throughout Jewish thought. In terms of how you look upon the greatness of a person. Is the greatness of a person the fact that he maybe erred and he came back, or is that he never erred? And it's a powerful issue. say never erred, I'm not talking about just making the decision never to err. I'm talking about not even having the choice never to err. Right? He didn't have that Yetzer Hara or whatever. These are major issues within Jewish thought. Avram Avinu, there's arguments of that's the argument you're mentioning with Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, did he already know about God, or did he come to God? And the point is that and this is tied to the argument that when did Avram find God? Did he find him when he was 3, or did he find him when he was 40? That's very, very interesting in terms of the Kuzari talks about Avram Avinu finding God when he was 3. Because to the Kuzari, it was very much tied to his unique Yiddish neshama, which also existed in Shem, by the way. Because at that point in time, it wasn't just for Jews, it was the neshama of the righteous people. And the Kuzari has to deal with that issue. The fact is, according to Kuzari's idea, is that there's no soul that goes to the righteous, and the other people don't have the righteous soul, so how can they be held accountable for their sins? Because they don't have the righteous soul to begin with. That's a big issue within the perception of the Kuzari, and also perception within that perspective about the Jewish soul. Avraham Avinu, the point is his greatness was he founded on. He was the first Baal Tshuva. These are different opinions, and they're very powerful opinions. How it works. Okay, but the point is that the 2 readings on Rosh Hashanah are both stories dealing with Avraham Avinu. Okay, Avraham Avinu, the first one being the birth of Yitzchak, and the second one being Akedah Yitzchak. And somehow these 2 stories were taken as more significant than reading Ma'aseh Bereishit. Okay, now Ma'aseh Bereishit also had monotheism, because what are we talking about? Bereishit is Bara Elokim. The world was created by the one God. Okay? And the fact is that the one God, everyone knew about the one God, okay, unless they made a decision not to know. But the point of the matter is that Adam and Chava, it wasn't a question of faith. They didn't have this faith idea. How did they know it was one God? Because he just spoke to him, right? Cain and Hevel, how did they know it was one God? Yeah, because that's reality. Okay? The fact is, at some point in time, people started dealing with the fact that there wasn't one God. Now that really raises a very interesting question, or a very interesting issue, because in history, you always start with the argument that there was polytheism, and then monotheism developed through the Jews, and then how it developed, and so forth and so forth. Okay, that understanding of history cannot happen within Jewish thought, within Orthodox Jewish thought. Because because polytheism had only come about, only came about from monotheism. So that's why the Rambam develops an argument of how polytheism could have been developed. Because everyone knew there was monotheism, so how did polytheism become developed? How did people get this idea there was more than one God? So the Rambam says that what occurred, and this is he writes in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, he says that what happened is that it's not enough to be honorable to the king, you also have to be honorable to the king's servants. And that there were people, and that God gave over, supervision over aspects of reality to his servants, such as the sun. So there was an angel of the sun, and he was a servant of God. Okay, and he did what God told him to do. So the point is that the servant of this servant, it wouldn't be nice if you didn't treat him honorably. You got to treat the Governor General of Canada honorably because he represents the Queen. So the servant of God also has to be treated honorably. So they didn't bring sacrifices to the sun originally as a god. They brought sacrifices to the sun as a honorable servant of God. And this eventually led to polytheism. Now, that's an interesting theory, and how that works psychologically, and I don't know, and there's a lot of problems and issues and so forth. But the fact is that the Rambam gives an argument because he understands the problem. The problem is that the world didn't begin with polytheism. The world began with everyone having monotheism. Okay, and then for sure after the flood, all these people come out of a boat after the flood, right? Now, how many of them think that there's not one God? Okay, let's try and understand this. Did any of them think that there was one God? Okay, then you have problems. Then you have come issues. And by the way, this leads to one of the great issues that is avoided within the Jewish world. It's a fascinating problem that I always find avoided in the Jewish world. Anytime anyone tries to deal with free will and free choice, they usually do so by trying to say that's why it's all a matter of faith. That's why it can't be proven. Because if you prove that God existed, who would do an evil thing? Who would act in evil? Right? If you knew that God existed and you knew that if you didn't abide by his law, you were going to get a consequence which was negative, okay, why would you how could you do that? So therefore free
At Egypt, and they saw the Kriyat and Suf, and after that they saw so much that we haven't, even the big Nevi'im and the big prophecy, they still had very easy way to go and complain and not believe and become.
So therefore, what does that tell you? Yes, they did. So what does that tell you about free choice?
It tells you that there is a process that also work on you to make not to believe in God.
Okay, no, it's not a question of not believing God.
Or stay away from.
No, it's not. It's that there's a reason why even you know that you're going to get yourself totally messed up, right? Okay, that you still don't want to listen to God. No. It means that when you talk about Asaph doing a sin, okay, when you talk about someone doing a sin, it generally means, now it's true sometimes you have a sin where a person basically says, oh, really this is what God wants me to do, and so forth and so forth. But the fact is the real understanding of the evil drive is, I know God's going to beat me up for this. I know that I'm going to suffer for this, but I'm still going to do it because I don't want to listen to God. Now, why does a person not want to listen to God?
The ego.
So what does that mean? What's the problem?
Because there's free will.
No, but why would you not want to listen to God? Knowing full well that you get your head beaten in.
Because their own desires are more immediate, whereas God is abstract.
No, we're not talking about God as abstract. God is as real, and I know exactly. He's right in front of me, and this is your case over at Very Yom Suf. I know that if I do this, okay, I know if I do this, I am going to get the beating of my life, but I'm still going to do it. The classic example of that is a mullik. Okay? A mullik. The reason a mullik is considered to be the example of evil, of what? Yeah, but why? The fact is, a mullik is considered to be the classic example of evil. Why? Because why? No, it's more than that. Because a mullik knew exactly what was going to happen to them. We're going to war against the Jews. They're going to beat whatever out of us. We know we're going to lose. Okay? We just don't want to listen to God. Now, why would someone do that? Now, you're going to say it's an ego thing, but you're already talking away about someone justifying it. Why would the truth of the matter is it's an argument for an ego, and that usually is where you get into issues of why it's faith and you can't prove it and so forth. But the fact is why would someone, Asaph knew exactly who God was, knew exactly what was happening. He was brought up in the around his grandfather Avinu. There were angels walking around in Avram Avinu's camp, and he's sitting there and saying, "I'm not listening to God. I'm going to go. Because I'm so driven to go kill this person. I'm going to go kill them, even though I know that I'm going to have a negative consequence."
It's
Why?
like the child.
Yeah, but right,
It's
but
like the child. The parent says, "Don't do this," and the child does that.
and the fact is, you say it's the child because you say it's a child. It's being childish and stupid. I'm not talking about childish and stupid. I'm talking about you rather the greatest evil people in Jewish thought, the examples of evil, okay, are all people who knew exactly the consequences of the evil. They knew they were doing evil. Yeravam ben Nevat, okay, Yeravam ben Nevat, the king who established the Israel, separate, right? When he was told, okay, these are the rules of you becoming king, I'm not following them. He was told by a prophet. There was no doubt that he knew about God. I'm not listening to you.
The act on or take advantage of our capacity for free will is more important than considering consequences.
We were supposed to be talking about, but
But some people, it's almost like a worship of free will. There's a like exploit it to the hilt.
It's actually
Well, it's
also
like the Freudian.
actually the desire.
you have to come up with it.
You get satisfaction, more satisfaction, immediate respond to if you go do the evil, more than the reward that will come after.
No, because it's not a question of reward afterwards.
You get a reward, but
Yeah, but the fact is, you're also going to get the evil later.
It's almost as though they're acting on principle.
I'm in this. Okay, so the point is that's exactly what they say by a Malek. There was a principle. No one's going to tell me what to do. Even God. Okay. So now the fact is, I'm just talking because I want to get back to our topic here. I'm going to give you my impression. Okay, since we brought this up, I'll give you perception. There are two parts to the human being as reflected in, and this ties to the idea of creation, is what are the two objectives of the human being from creation? Okay, what is the objective of a human being? Okay, I'm talking about the ultimate objective. So one is to become an Eved Hashem, right, to be a servant of God.
Servant of God, yes.
Okay. What's the other one?
To emulate
Sex.
God.
What's the other one?
inside this physical world.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means that we can see godliness without straight through, without having being told
The
about it.
fact is that what do we see in terms of the sources? Look back to Chumash. What's the other definition of a human being? That's a major definition of a human being. One is Nevid Hashem. What's the other definition? What's the distinguishing characteristic of a human being?
Being the partner to God.
What?
Yeah.
Selam Elohim, right? Okay, which is in the image of God. Now, the term Elohim, what does it mean? Elohim means judge. When it's used without, it other means when it's used to refer to God, it's referring to God as in terms of, you're correct, in terms of his control of nature. The other side is that he is judge and
That's judge is not Emmett?
no, judge is no, Dayan Emet means the truthful judge. Okay, but that's not Emet. Judge means you make decisions.
Oh.
Okay? Now, what is the ultimate definition of God as the one who makes decisions? He makes decisions pursuant to his will. Okay? There is no outside will, okay, governing God. Okay? Now when you talk about the will of a servant or a slave, okay, who makes decisions for a slave?
The master.
The master. So the truth of the matter is an Eved is one who does not make his own decisions. He is totally subject to the will of another. That's why he's an Eved. Okay, when you talk about being an Eved Hashem, it means that you are subject to the will of God. Great. The only thing is that if you are at Tselem Elohim, the strength of being at Tselem Elohim is having your own will. truth is the human being's nature is inherently contradictory. The fact that we are emulations of the divine mean we have our own will and should act on our own will, and on the other hand, okay, the fact that we're Eved Hashem means we are subject to the will of God. That inherent contradiction is the essence of what humanity is about. The point is that we have to reconcile. Where's the reconciliation? It's actually in learning Torah. Okay, so the Gemara talks about this. Says it's Torah that is the reconciliation. Why? Because what happens in the study of Torah? A system means that you're bound to the rules of God because you're using His system, but He's saying you make decisions, and that goes back to what that story you said the other day, that my children have defeated me and so forth and so forth. The fact is that this is the whole tension of the human experience, and the way we are able to reconcile the two, the way Kosh Baruch Hu has created our reconciliation, is by giving us a revelation that calls upon us to be decision makers. So in a certain way, by the fact that we are bound to Torah, we accept the fact that we're Ovdei Hashem, but the fact that God has called upon us through Torah to make decisions basically brings up our Salam Elohim. Okay, now let me get back to Rosh Hashanah. Okay, that's the way I try and answer this question. So Amalek, the reason you have evil is the evil person says basically, and you see this from the person who basically says, I don't care if it's the right thing or not, for sure it's the right thing to listen to God. I don't want to do that because God's telling me to do that because I want to follow my own will. Okay, and that's really where evil comes from. It comes from a person basically saying, I don't care about morality, I don't care about other standards upon me. Yeah.
Why would your own will want to do something that would have consequences which are painful?
So therefore, that's why most people in that situation aren't so evil that they're going to do that. Okay, so the fact is, the reason that that negative consequences work, okay, that's why the Gemara says, a person who's gone through lashes, 39 lashes, let me just say like this, they always had to the doctor to over review someone before they gave them the 39 lashes, because most people would die from the 39 lashes, okay, because it wasn't just a little lash like our lashes, it was a big piece of leather that, and the fact of the matter is most people would be dead if they went through the the 39 lashes. So the fact is raises an interesting issue. So the Gemara says that if you've already gone through this and you still go back and eat the piece of pork that led to the other, then they don't bother giving you another 39 lashes. You're gone. Why? Because if you didn't get the message the first time, you weren't going to get the message. Because the point is basically you're doing it not because you have great desire for the pork, because the pork doesn't taste that good. It's because basically you don't want to listen to God. And the point is, what evil really is about is not listening to God. But why is it really evil? Because I am willing, because the fact is that I am willing to hurt myself in order not to listen to that person.
So therefore we blot out Amalek.
That's why Amalek is so
So God.
yes.
I know you can answer. So, in the mind of a Muslim, what is this subjugation to God all about?
Let's not go there. Okay, because what's that? Okay, I don't. First of all, I'm not interested in explaining that religion. The fact of the matter is that I don't want to go there. But the truth is, I want to get back to Rosh Hashanah. Okay, I had an agenda here. See, this is so nice. You see, this is what happens. I open myself up to all these questions, and they're good questions. And sometimes I'm able to go through with them because today the difference tonight is the fact that as we move through the questions, everyone let me get through it. Other times it's like once I'm answering one question, there are already 6 more questions coming in. Okay. Anyways, okay. So let me go back to this point here. Creation is about monotheism. It's one God creating the world. Okay. The point is we talk about two readings. The two readings are Hashem Pakadat Sarah, that God remembered Sarah and arranged for her to have a child. Now that her arranging for her to have a child was miraculous. Why? Because she was older and couldn't have. Basically, she was not able. Right. So the point is, something happened. All of a sudden, she was able to have a child. And it says Hashem Pakadat Sarah. It's interesting. When Yitzchak was born, on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Why do we read about it? Because people say because Yitzchak was born on Rosh Hashanah. The truth is, the Gemara says
conceived.
What? That's the whole issue. So the point is that it's an interesting argument. Is that was Yitzchak born on Rosh Hashanah or Yitzchak was born on Pesach? The point is, I can't remember if it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan or whether he was born on Pesach. But the fact is that there's an argument. There's a view that says that Yitzchak was born on Rosh Hashanah. That's why we read the birth of the Pakadat Sarah. The truth is the other argument. If you look at Rashi, is that he was conceived on Rosh Hashanah. In other words, she became pregnant on Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
So how and that fits in with the argument that Yitzchak was born on Nisan. If you look at Rashi's viewpoint, it seems to me Rashi's viewpoint is that Hashem remembered Sarah. What does it mean, Pakadat Sarah? That's what he remembered, and therefore he waited so that Sarah could have a kid, and she was conceived on Rosh Hashanah, but it wasn't born till Pesach. Now, usually, what you have from conception, how many months? 9 months, right? And therefore, okay. So how does it equate? So you can, it's a 7-month baby, but still Pesach is only 6 months after Rosh Hashanah, right? Except it was a leap year. Okay, so the fact is that year was a leap year. Okay, so there was an extra month, and Yitzchak was born 7 months after Rosh Hashanah. So that's the way, and that seems to be shot in Rashi. It's the way some people understand it. Okay, but Yitzchak was born, but he was remembered on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, in other words, everything that happened to make Sarah have a child basically happened before Rosh Hashanah. Then we have the story of a Kedesh Yitzchak, which is the binding of Yitzchak, and so forth. So the fact is if you look at creation, there's an interesting aspect of creation. Why is it important for us to know about creation? Okay, I know nothing about the Big Bang. Does it matter?
I think it's creation.
There's lots of reasons why it might be important to know about creation, even aside from the physics of it. In the context of this, though,
Yeah.
it's worthwhile knowing something about creation because we are also creators. And so, if we, and to an extent, you could say that if we're interested in this parsha as being representative of creation in some way, then here we have the first Bel Tshuva doing his own creating.
Okay.
I'm getting ahead.
What you're saying is, how does this parsha fit into the concept of creating?
Yeah.
I was asking it differently. I like what you're saying. There's a certain aspect of Abraham as a creator. Interesting idea. What I'm saying, though, is what I'm really asking is in terms of the idea of Rosh Hashanah being the anniversary of creation, why is it important to know about creation from our perspective? In other words, what I'm asking is the other way around. I'm saying, from a physics point of view, that may apply to physicists and so forth, and you gain some information. What I'm saying for me, as an average human being, what do I have to know about creation? You have to know that
All experience in the universe and time and history comes after creation.
Okay,
And after creation.
So, and why? So what?
do the creation
So-
who existed before.
Okay, so what does that make a difference?
You can get,
Why doesn't it?
you
What?
can go to Rashi's answer if you
Why
want.
doesn't?
Rashi's answer
Because we
where?
know that somebody has
Rashi answered this question.
The
He
first
says
Rashi-
why
it's not starting with Rosh Chodesh Elul.
Good. The first Rashi in Chumash, okay? Why did the Torah begin with Chachodesh Zelachem, which is the first mitzvah? Okay, what Rashi is really asking is why you. People say, okay, what does Rashi mean? We don't have to know about creation. What's his point? Okay, then Rashi's answer is really very interesting because he says because without creation we wouldn't know the right to have the land. Since God created the land, okay, since God created the land, okay, we Jews have God gave it to us. We Jews have a right to the land. Now, the truth of the matter is that Rashi is much more complicated than most people. It's not just a simple answer, okay? Because the point is that who has the land and so forth. The fact is, long before that's the issue. How was it okay for you to actually go and conquer the land? Maybe God gave the land to someone else. So the truth is that didn't God give the land to the Shimon first? The answer is really it was given to Bnei Shem. It's given to the children of Shem. Eretz Yisrael was always supposed to be part of Shem. The Shiva Amimim came from Bnei Cham. They came from those who came out and kicked out the people who were given the land originally. And when Yeshua came back in, he basically said this was our land because it was given to Bnei Shem to begin with. There's a whole variety of issues, but there's something very interesting to Rashi. People really wonder about Rashi's question and answer. Because the fact is that, okay, so it tells you about creation, but there's a little problem. Is that just about creation that's missing? What about the whole book of Bereishit? Rashi says, why do you have to start with creation? Because it tells you God the Creator, therefore he knows who the land will, he can give the land to everyone because it's his land. Okay, so tell me, it's his land, but what do we need to know the stories of Avinu, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov? Yeah, so.
Shmot is already beginning with the
Yeah, but what? So what do I need to know that for?
For everything else.
So that could have been the answer. You can't understand the laws unless you understand the laws. Okay, it might be an answer to say, hey, listen, before you understand the Declaration of Independence of the United States, you should know about the War of Independence. That's something different. But what is Rashi really saying? So.
Before and after. Before, when the land was developed and everything else, and the animals and so forth, and then man, and then much later on.
But what? Why do I really have to know this? So the fact is, okay. So let me rephrase it. Okay, so okay. Let me phrase it a certain way. Yeah, the fact is, what do we really have to know? See, what's really significant is what we're about is what our question is what's the proper way to live today? Okay? The knowledge of God is not the most significant knowledge of God is not the knowledge of God the Creator. The most significant knowledge of God is knowledge of God the King or Administrator. When Rashi's asking the question, what's he really asking? He's saying, okay, this is the book of laws. This is what tells us what we're supposed to do. Okay, there's a God, he's in charge, and here are the rules. Okay? In other words, all I want to know about, if I want to look up something in the government, I want to know the law. How this became the law, okay, marijuana is now legal and wasn't legal and so forth. That's an interesting history lesson, but what does it tell me about me smoking marijuana today? Okay, which I don't do. But the fact is that okay? So 50 years ago it wasn't good. So the point is what Rashi's really questioning is, why do I have to know about creation? What does it tell me about my life today? It's history. That's why I asked about the Big Bang Theory, okay? The point is that what I do have to know is that there is a God, and that God has rules, and God has some control over my life today. Therefore, what do I have to know about creation? So Rashi is really saying is, how did God become the king and ruler and administrator, and why what he says is what you have to follow? There's a moral reason for that, because he is the creator. He made the world. So therefore, what we are really instructed, so therefore that's why he made the world. Now the question is, why is it that if someone creates, makes the rules? And that's a big question is over, but that's part of the question. But the point is, and that introduces the fact that what we are really taught about before in Bereishit is then not the idea that, and this is why we have the book of Bereishit, it's not just about creation, it's not just simply that we have, that God's the creator, it's basically based on Rashi's question, and he's telling you that this is the information you have to know in order to understand why you have to listen to God today. Okay, so therefore, Rosh Hashanah, you guys mentioned it, is a day of din. It's Yom Hadin. Now the point is Yom Hadin means it's the day where we have to follow, where we're acknowledged by the rule. So therefore, how do we know that we have to do that? So it's not just because God's the creator. Us knowing about creation understands that we have to have an argument. We have to understand why God does have this right. We have to understand his right. We have to understand his control. So if you look at the two stories we read on Rosh Hashanah, what are we really being taught?
Providence, the authority of the rules that are in the Torah.
And the fact is that Hashem, there's two aspects to this. One is the fact that he is in control of nature. Hashem pakad et Sarah. And Sarah's response is she laughed. Hey, this isn't normal. Okay, this is not normal. But the fact is God's in charge. Okay, Hashem Sachakli. This is what can happen because God is in charge of nature. He's the one who controls, and therefore, if I'm going to have a kid, I'm going to have a kid because God said it. That's one thing. God in control of nature, which is significant for me to know, to understand my relationship with God today. What's the second thing? The second thing is the Kedesh Yitzchak. What happens in the Kedesh Yitzchak? God as the commander. He basically says, okay, I'm also going to give you laws. So the point is my relationship with God is built upon the fact that he controls nature and he also is the lawgiver. And therefore I have to listen to him. So the truth is my involvement with God is my knowledge of creation. And it's right back in Hayom Harat Olam. It's right there. The world was created today, and that gave God the right to set these rules. And therefore God judges the world. Why does he judge the world? Because he didn't usurp some authority and say, now I'm taking over. He was the one who created the world in this manner. But that's not really what the real point of Rosh Hashanah is. The real point of Rosh Hashanah is understanding that God is one who basically evaluates what we're doing in life because he was a creator and because he continues to control our life through control over nature and through the laws that he gave us. Okay? And that is justified from the fact that he's the creator. Now, there's one thing that's missing though. Okay? And this is an interesting aspect of it. By the way, that leads okay, so
Is that where it is?
no, because that leads to the question that by definition God is merciless. It's so simple.
But it's not only the creator, he's creating every second.
Yes.
So if he doesn't interfere, the world disappears.
Yeah, but the point that's an aspect of his like being being in control of this world. That's Hashem Pakad Tzara. He's basically in charge. See, one of the things that then happens is that there's one thing where we're finished with Avram, we understand that God has authority. There's something that is added to this by Pesach, and actually Yetzias Mitzrayim. What does who say to Moshe Rabbeinu? Okay, Ushmi Hashem Yonadati Lahem. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does that mean? It means that Avram Avinu understood God in terms of total control over nature. Okay? The final lesson of Pesach, which is unique to the lesson of the Jews, this leads into a whole issue of the distinction between Jews and Noachites, and really opens up a whole different discussion, is the fact that we understand that God is even above nature. He didn't just create nature, he basically is above nature. It's one of the reasons that I personally don't like arguments that try to turn the plagues of Pesach into how they occurred through natural ways. This way and that way, this happened through this natural way, so forth, so forth. Is it still a miracle? Yes, it's still a miracle. Because God made it happen that way. And it was not, and the fact that it happened precisely at this moment, and this is still a miracle. But the point is, what did God say he was really going to prove with Yetzias Mitzrayim? Shmi Hashem lo nadati lehem. What does Yud Kei Vav Kei mean? I'm above nature. It's like you're saying. Is that everything everything comes from me continuously. So the truth of the matter is, that's why if you look at the miracles of Pesach, to me it's important to recognize that all the miracles were contrary to nature. So to me it's significant that the hailstorm that came down had fire within the water, because that's impossible to occur. Why? Because God was saying that, but that had something to do with this unique lesson to the Jewish people and creating the Jewish people at Hashanah, which led to actually the second issue, what you bring into morality, is that it's the Jews who have power over to basically know how to ultimately bring in the emulation of God. Okay, it's a much more complex idea. But the fact is, on Rosh Hashanah, what I'm saying is Rosh Hashanah is the concept of the creation of the world. We don't read the creation story on Rosh Hashanah. What I'm getting to is that simply because the point of the creation story is not that we know about creation. The point of the creation story is that exactly what we understand from Hashem Pakad Tzara and the case that God is in charge of this world, and He has a right to be in charge of this world. As first Rashi is saying, that He's the creator, that's what made Him right in charge of this world, and then we have to understand He's in charge of this world. That's why we have to follow Him and basically deal with and basically relate to Him, because He's in charge of this world. And He has a right to be in charge of this world as the creator. So we read about what's more significant in terms of Rosh Hashanah. We read about His involvement with that, and that leads to His knowledge of nature, and it leads to His right of questioning. And let me just say one thing about that right of questioning, is that, and then comes the unique lesson of Avraham Avinu at the end. What is the final lesson of learns from the Akedah? As a whole, Akedah story is, listening to God. God doesn't like human sacrifices. We want to sacrifice. The whole big issue about this and so on. So, what's the one thing that's really missing from Avraham Avinu in the Akedah story that he should have done? Because he did it before.
He should have questioned.
Argue with
He
God.
should have questioned. No, not argue. Not argue, question.
No, but it means you don't question the law.
No, you don't. That's exactly what God taught him. The truth of the matter is that Avraham Avinu questioned stone, and he was right to question stone. Then when he faced the actual statement of God, you have to do this, Avraham felt, listen, in my way I understand it is that in my capacity as stone was when God was sharing the idea with me, then it was okay for the question. But now that I'm in the command and the servant statement, I can't do that. And the answer is no. At the end, right after the story, God specifically says, first thing Avram does is ask questions. I don't get this. This didn't make any sense. Okay, I didn't understand this from day one. Okay, and God gives a simple answer. I never told you to kill him. I told him just put him on, bring him. The point is that, and there are comments just to say that was really the lesson to Avram. You were supposed to question. Okay, and the truth is, I forget who says this, but there's someone who says that's where we learn the necessity of questioning in halacha. That's where you have to know that halacha is only built upon the question. If you're not questioning, you're not going to get the correct psak, correct conclusion. Anyways, but that's part of it. That's really what I wanted to say. So just to conclude, we don't read Ma'aseh Bereishit on the day that marks the creation, because the real significance of doing the creation is to know why the creation is important. And why the creation is important is because it explains why God is in charge of the world. It justifies God's involvement in the world. It justifies his position as being able to give laws and to evaluate laws and so forth. Exactly what Rashi says at the point of creation, it justifies why Jews were able to have a right there to Israel, why God can give the land to everyone. It's his land. And therefore the significant thing is really Hashem B'Kadat Tzara and the Kedes Yitzchak, that basically God's in charge, and we have to know that it's right that God's in charge, and that's how we respond to Rosh Hashanah by doing tshuva and having a good year. And with that, I just want to say to everyone on camera or watching camera, everyone here, Chassidus, Chassidus Tova, we should all have a really great new year, upcoming.
Amen.
Okay.